In the beginning, when light and darkness first danced across the heavens, there existed a powerful pantheon of gods known as the Anunnaki. These deities shaped existence, breathed life into humanity, and governed the balance of all things. Among them stood Utu, the sun god and bringer of justice. Utu's light was no ordinary radiance. It was a piercing force, revealing truth and exposing all hidden wrongdoing. Yet, even as his light brought justice to the world, it weighed heavily on him, isolating him within his own duty. As a member of the Anunnaki, Utu held a unique and respected place. He was not just a bringer of sunlight but the enforcer of divine order, a being bound to protect the balance of creation. Unlike some of his siblings who governed elements or guided human passions, Utu's role demanded unwavering strictness. His was a role of accountability, a responsibility to reveal darkness, expose deceit, and ensure that no being, god or mortal, escaped the gaze of justice. Yet, this role came with a heavy price. Utu's heart was bound to his duty, and though he cared for humanity deeply, he could not afford to show it. He watched as his brother Inanna, the moon god, showed gentleness and understanding to humans, guiding them through dreams and reflection. Utu, however, could not afford such mercy. He knew that his purpose was different, that his strictness would be a necessary burden for both humanity and himself. He loved humanity fiercely, but his love was hidden behind the intense light of his judgment. Utu's place among the Anunnaki made him both feared and revered. As the god of the sun, he was respected as a source of life and growth. But his light was also a force of exposure, a relentless presence that could strip away all illusions, revealing the truth beneath. In the Pantheon, Utu was the one who would confront wrongdoings directly, unafraid to challenge even other gods if they strayed from justice. The Anunnaki held Utu in high regard for his fairness, but they often kept their distance. Unlike his brother Inanna, who was seen as gentle and forgiving, Utu's presence was intense and demanding. He knew that this role set him apart, even from his own family. Though he was close to Inanna, there was an unspoken tension between them, a difference in philosophy. Inanna believed in guiding humanity with compassion, while Utu believed that true guidance lay in holding humanity accountable, even if it meant being hard on them. This difference in approach sometimes caused conflict between Utu and Inanna. Inanna's heart was softer, and he viewed Utu's strictness as excessive, almost harsh. But Utu felt he had no choice. To ensure that justice was served, he needed to be unyielding. He saw the world as a place where consequences were essential, where people needed to understand the weight of their actions. For Utu, being soft would mean betraying his duty, and that was a burden he was unwilling to place on his own soul. As each day began, Utu rose in his chariot, riding across the sky from east to west, watching the world below. From his vantage point, he saw not only the kindness and beauty of humanity, but also the cruelty, greed, and deceit that spread like shadows across the land. With each sunrise, he carried the hope that his light would bring change, that people would turn away from darkness and embrace the path of truth. But as he continued his journey, he saw that not all were willing to follow this path. Utu's heart grew heavier with each passing day. He understood the need for his strictness, but he wished that humanity could see it as a form of love, a way of showing them that justice was a gift, not a punishment. His judgments were often harsh, but he knew they were necessary to protect the innocent and preserve the balance. Yet, deep inside, he felt the weight of his role, the sorrow that came with seeing the same sins repeat day after day. In moments of solitude, Utu would reflect on his own isolation. His fellow gods enjoyed the freedom to inspire love, passion, or creativity among mortals, but he could only offer justice, a force that few embraced willingly. He watched from afar as Inanna walked gently among humanity, offering dreams and hope. Utu, meanwhile, remained distant, watching over humanity like a stern guardian, bound to his duty even as it separated him from those he cared for. One day, Utu was approached by Inanna, who questioned his unyielding stance. "Brother," Inanna said gently, "why must you be so hard on them? Humanity is fragile, and they look to us for guidance. If we show them compassion, they may grow without needing such harsh lessons." Utu listened, feeling the familiar weight of their differences. "Nana," he replied, his voice steady but sorrowful, "I cannot be like you. Justice is my duty, and if I do not enforce it, who will hold them accountable? Our love for them must not blind us to their faults. To truly care for them, we must be willing to challenge them, even if it means causing them pain." Nana sighed, understanding yet saddened. He respected Yutu's resolve, but saw the loneliness it brought him. "I hope that one day, you see that compassion can exist alongside justice," Nana said softly. "Perhaps if they understood the heart behind your judgments, they would not fear you so much." Yutu pondered his brother's words, yet he could not bring himself to change. To him, true compassion meant giving humanity the strength to face the truth, even when it was difficult. He knew that Nana's gentle guidance was valuable, but he believed that humanity needed to know the consequences of their actions. Though his heart ached with the knowledge that his strictness made him appear distant, Yutu accepted it as part of his role. Each dawn, as he took to the sky, Yutu steeled himself, pushing aside the sorrow that lingered within him. He knew that humanity needed his light, even if they feared it. He hoped that one day, they would understand that his judgments were an act of love, a way of ensuring they learned the value of justice and the importance of truth. But for now, he remained a distant figure, watching over them with a stern gaze, hiding the heartache that his duty demanded. And so, Yutu continued, his light unwavering, his resolve as strong as ever. He was the sun god, the bringer of justice, a guardian bound by duty. Though he carried the weight of solitude, he took solace in the belief that his presence would protect those who embraced the light. For Yutu, the path of justice was not an easy one, but he walked it willingly, even as it set him apart from those he loved. Yutu's journey across the sky was more than a celestial cycle, it was a daily vigil. As he rose in the east, his light cast away the shadows, illuminating all that had been hidden in darkness. To mortals, the sunrise was a blessing, a chance for new beginnings, a promise that they were not alone. Yutu's presence was a constant reminder that justice watched over them, and even the most powerful rulers knew that no one could escape the sun god's gaze. Though Yutu was bound by his duty, he did not remain distant from humanity. His light was a form of silent guidance, a presence that both comforted the innocent and unsettled the guilty. Those who lived honestly took solace in his warmth, feeling protected by his vigilance. But for those who had secrets, those who sowed cruelty or deceit, Yutu's presence was a warning, a reminder that justice would come for them. Each morning, as his light spread across the land, people offered prayers and sought his intervention in their lives. Farmers prayed to him for fair weather and bountiful harvests, hoping that his favor would shield their crops from ruin. Mothers prayed for their children's safety, placing their trust in the sun god to protect them from harm. And those who suffered under the hand of tyranny raised their voices to him, asking for deliverance from cruelty. Though Yutu rarely answered these pleas directly, he felt their weight. Each prayer, each desperate call, reminded him of the responsibility he bore. His duty was not merely to shine light, but to be a force of protection, a presence that held back the darkness. Yet, as the numbers of those suffering grew, so did his burden. He knew that he could not intervene in every situation, that his role was to uphold the principles of justice, rather than to solve every individual struggle. But this knowledge did little to ease the sorrow he felt. There were times when Yutu would descend from his chariot, walking among mortals unseen. Cloaked in human form, he would move through villages, observing the lives of the people he protected. He watched as they laughed, as they struggled, as they showed kindness to one another. These moments softened the strictness in his heart, reminding him of the beauty that humanity was capable of. One day, while visiting a small village, Yutu witnessed a scene that stirred him deeply. A young boy, small and fragile, stood alone in a dusty square, facing a powerful landowner who threatened to take his family's home. The boy's parents had been working hard, yet they had fallen behind in their payments due to a poor harvest. The landowner, unmoved by their plight, saw their vulnerability as an opportunity to enrich himself. As Yutu watched, his heart ached. He saw the courage in the boy's eyes, the determination to stand up for his family despite the overwhelming odds. Yet, U2 knew that the boy's bravery alone would not be enough. He felt an urge to step in, to shield the family from this cruelty, but he hesitated. His principles held him back. He was not meant to interfere openly, only to watch, to witness. But that night, under the cover of darkness, U2 took action in his own way. When dawn broke, the village awoke to find a strange sight. The landowner's wealth had vanished. His gold, his valuables, even his prized possessions had disappeared, leaving him with nothing but his own greed. The people whispered that it was U2's justice, a hidden hand that had come to restore balance. Though the boy's family never knew of U2's intervention, they were spared. And for U2, the act left him both satisfied and saddened. He had fulfilled his role, yet the knowledge that he could not always act so directly weighed on him. His duty demanded restraint, yet his heart yearned to do more. U2's reputation as a strict judge spread across the land, and while many praised him, there were those who feared him. They saw him as a distant figure, a god who demanded perfection and punished those who failed to meet his standards. The people honored him, but few understood the weight he carried. To them, he was a figure of unwavering authority, a force of judgment that showed no mercy. But in his solitude, U2 felt the cost of his role deeply. He knew that his image as a strict god created distance between him and humanity. Unlike Inanna, who was welcomed into people's dreams and memories with warmth, U2 was a figure of respect and fear. His presence inspired awe, but it did not invite closeness. Even as he protected them, he remained an outsider, bound by his duty to uphold justice without favoritism or leniency. There were moments when he questioned the path he had chosen. He wondered if, perhaps, he could be softer, if he could approach humanity with the gentleness that Inanna possessed. But each time he considered this, he reminded himself of the consequences. Humanity, he believed, needed accountability to grow. If he were to forgive too easily, they might fall into complacency, forgetting the importance of truth and justice. Though his heart longed to ease their burdens, he knew that his strictness was a necessity, a tough love that guided them toward righteousness. Despite his strict judgments, there were those who felt drawn to U2's light. For those who had lost their way, his presence offered a chance for redemption. People would visit his temple in Sapar, seeking his guidance in moments of moral struggle. They believed that, through prayer, U2 could illuminate the right path, helping them to see their flaws and correct their mistakes. One evening, a man burdened by guilt arrived at the temple, seeking U2's forgiveness. The man had wronged others in his pursuit of wealth, leaving a trail of broken lives behind him. But now remorse gnawed at him, and he feared that U2's light would reveal his sins for all to see. As he knelt before U2's altar, he asked, trembling, if there was a way to atone. In that quiet moment, U2's light filled the temple, casting a warm glow over the man. It was not the harsh, punishing light that the man had feared, but a softer illumination that showed him his own reflection. In that reflection, he saw his actions laid bare, the harm he had caused, but also the potential for change within himself. The man left the temple that night with a heavy heart but a renewed determination to make amends. U2's light had guided him toward redemption, not through punishment but through self-realization. Moments like these gave U2 a sense of purpose, reminding him that his strictness was not meant to harm but to teach. He could not always show mercy, but he could help others find it within themselves. Each day, as U2 rose to watch over the world, he carried the silent hope that his actions would inspire humanity to seek truth on their own. Though he remained a figure of authority, his heart held compassion for those who struggled. He knew that his role made him a distant figure, but he accepted this as part of his duty. If being strict meant protecting the innocent and guiding the lost, then he would carry that burden, even if it left him feeling isolated. For U2, the weight of justice was heavy, but his resolve remained strong. He would continue to shine his light on humanity, offering them the chance to see their own potential, even if he could not always walk beside them. His love was hidden, but it was real, a love that demanded accountability, a love that asked humanity to be better, to reach for the light even when it felt distant. U2 had long watched over humanity, and in doing so, he had seen both the best and the worst of human nature. He had witnessed kindness and resilience, but also cruelty and greed. It was his duty to expose the darkness, to hold those who strayed from the path of justice accountable. And though he carried out this duty with resolve, it was not without emotional cost. Each judgment weighed on him, adding to the silent sorrow he bore. One day, Yutu's gaze fell upon a kingdom plagued by suffering. Its people lived in fear, their lives dictated by the whims of a tyrant who ruled with an iron fist. This ruler had once been a man with good intentions, but over time, he had been consumed by ambition and greed. Now, he oppressed his people, taking from them what they could not afford to give and showing no mercy to those who resisted. The cries of the innocent reached Yutu's ears, and he knew he could not ignore them. As he watched the tyrant, Yutu felt a deep sorrow. He understood that this man had not always been this way. He had once held dreams of justice and prosperity for his people. But somewhere along the line, he had lost his way, succumbing to the allure of power. Yutu wished that he could guide the man back to his original path, to help him rediscover the goodness within him. Yet he knew that his duty demanded a different course of action. The people were suffering, and justice had to be served. Yutu descended from the heavens in his chariot, his light blazing like the midday sun. The people of the kingdom gathered, shielding their eyes from his intense radiance. They could feel the power of his presence, the weight of justice in the air. Hope mingled with fear as they looked to the sun god, silently pleading for relief from their suffering. The tyrant stood before Yutu, his face a mixture of defiance and fear. He knew that he was in the presence of a god, yet his pride would not allow him to bow. Instead, he stood tall, his chin raised as he tried to hide the trembling of his hands. Yutu looked upon him, seeing not only the man before him but the lost soul beneath. The man who had once wanted to protect his people, who had once known compassion. "Do you understand the harm you have caused?" Yutu's voice was calm but heavy, each word resonating with the weight of truth. "Do you see the pain in the faces of those you have wronged?" The tyrant's defiance faltered, and for a moment, he looked around at his people. He saw the fear in their eyes, the suffering he had imposed upon them. But his pride was too great, his desire for control too consuming. "I am their ruler," he replied, his voice unsteady but determined. "They exist to serve me, as is their duty." Yutu's heart sank. He had hoped that the man would see reason, that he would acknowledge his wrongs and seek redemption. But instead, the tyrant clung to his power, unable to see the truth that Yutu's light revealed. The sun god felt a deep sadness, a sorrow that came not only from the man's refusal to change but from the knowledge that justice would demand a heavy price. With a heavy heart, Yutu raised his hand, and a blinding light enveloped the tyrant. In that light, the man's true self was exposed, not the image of strength and power he had built, but the corruption and greed that had consumed his soul. The people watched as the tyrant's form faded, dissolving into the very light that had exposed his sins. When the light faded, only silence remained. The people stood in awe, both relieved and sorrowful, for while the tyrant's reign had ended, they knew that the man they had once respected was lost forever. Yutu's judgment had brought them freedom, but it had also reminded them of the cost of corruption, of the path that leads from compassion to cruelty. As Yutu returned to the heavens, he felt the weight of his judgment pressing down on him. He had done what was necessary, but the sorrow lingered. He had not taken pleasure in the tyrant's downfall, for he knew that the man's cruelty had once been compassion, twisted over time by unchecked power. In his heart, Yutu mourned the loss of what could have been, of a life that might have brought good to the world if not for the darkness that had overtaken it. In moments like these, Yutu questioned his role. He understood the need for justice, the importance of holding people accountable, but he also felt the pain of each life he condemned. He wondered if he could have done more, if there had been a way to save the tyrant's soul without destroying him. Yet, as he reflected, he reminded himself of his duty. He was the sun god, the bringer of justice, and his role required him to make difficult choices, to be the light that exposes truth, even when it brought sorrow. Yutu's heart was heavy, but he carried on, knowing that his strictness was a form of love, a way of guiding humanity toward a better path. He did not wish to be feared, But he understood that fear was sometimes necessary to protect the innocent, to deter those who might otherwise succumb to the same darkness that had taken the tyrant. The other gods observed Yutu's sorrow from a distance, some understanding the weight he bore, others questioning his strictness. His brother, Inanna, looked upon him with sympathy, knowing that Yutu's burden was unique. Inanna approached him one evening, hoping to ease his grief. "Brother," Inanna said gently, "you carry too much on your shoulders. Perhaps there is another way, a path that does not require such harshness. We are gods. We have the power to forgive, to show mercy." Yutu shook his head, his gaze distant and resolute. "Inanna, mercy is a gift, but it cannot replace justice. If I forgive without consequence, then I betray the innocent who suffer under cruelty. I do not enjoy this role, but it is necessary. They look to us for guidance, and I must be the one to hold them accountable." Inanna sighed, feeling both admiration and sadness for his brother. He understood Yutu's dedication, but he also saw the toll it took on him. "I only hope that one day, humanity will understand the love that drives your judgments, the compassion hidden behind your strictness. Perhaps then, you will not have to carry this burden alone." Yutu offered a faint smile, grateful for his brother's kindness. Yet he knew that his path was one he must walk alone. His love for humanity was a quiet, unspoken thing, hidden behind the light of his justice. He knew that most would see him as a distant, fearsome god, but he accepted this as part of his role. If being strict meant protecting the innocent, then he would bear that burden, even if it left him isolated. As he resumed his journey across the sky, Yutu reflected on the sacrifices his duty required. He had lost the chance to be close to humanity, to walk among them as a gentle guide like Inanna. Instead, he was the judge, the one who brought justice even when it caused him pain. But he found solace in the knowledge that his strictness was a force of protection, a love that demanded accountability. He knew that his judgments would continue to weigh on him, that the sorrow of each lost soul would follow him. Yet he remained steadfast, his light unwavering. He was the sun god, the bringer of justice, and though his path was lonely, it was one he would walk with pride and purpose. As time passed, the world changed, and Yutu's role among the gods became less prominent in the minds of mortals. Kingdoms rose and fell, and new powers emerged, with people turning to other gods and rulers for guidance. The temples once filled with prayers to Yutu became quiet, their altars left untouched, and his story began to fade into myth. Only a few remembered him as he truly was, a strict but compassionate god who had watched over humanity with unwavering dedication. For Yutu, the fading of his memory among mortals was a sorrowful yet inevitable consequence. He had devoted himself to humanity, offering them justice, protection, and guidance. Yet, in the end, even those he had protected were now distant from him. They forgot his judgments, his sacrifices, and the lessons he had left behind. And though he had never sought their adoration, he felt the sadness of being misunderstood and unappreciated, his purpose unrecognized by those he loved. In moments of solitude, Yutu watched as the world continued without him. He saw new rulers rise who did not share his commitment to justice, leaders who cared more for power than for the well-being of their people. He saw suffering and cruelty go unchallenged, and his heart ached with the knowledge that his presence might have prevented it. The sorrow of his isolation grew, for he knew that he had so much more to give, so much wisdom to share, yet he was bound by the silence that time and forgetfulness had imposed on him. Though Yutu's temples had fallen into ruin, fragments of his teachings survived in the hearts of those who still sought justice. A few loyal followers remembered the old ways, passing down stories of the sun god who brought light and truth to the world. They spoke of his strictness not as cruelty but as a form of love, a love that demanded accountability and fairness. These followers saw Yutu's principles as a foundation for their lives, guiding them to be better, to seek truth, and to protect the innocent. In secret gatherings, these followers shared tales of Yutu's judgments, his battles against corruption, and the sorrow he bore as the bringer of justice. They knew that his light was a gift, a force that called them to confront their own flaws and strive for a better world. Though they were few, their devotion kept Yutu's spirit alive, a quiet legacy hidden in the shadows of a world that had moved on. Even as U2 watched his influence fade, he did not lose hope. He believed that humanity would eventually remember the values he had represented. He trusted that one day, people would recognize the need for justice and accountability, that they would see the importance of balancing compassion with truth. U2's love for humanity remained steadfast, even as he felt the pain of separation. He was a silent guardian, a force of light that continued to watch over them, waiting for the moment when his teachings would be remembered. In his heart, U2 held onto the belief that justice was a timeless force, one that could never truly disappear. He knew that though his name might be forgotten, his principles would live on in the actions of those who chose to seek the truth, to stand up against wrongdoing, and to protect the vulnerable. He took solace in the thought that, even if humanity no longer prayed to him, they could still honor his legacy by embracing the ideals he had fought for. As U2 continued his journey across the sky, he turned his gaze toward the world below, silently calling to those who would listen. His message was simple yet profound, a reminder that justice is a duty, not just for gods but for all beings. He called upon humanity to carry his light within them, to be vigilant in their pursuit of truth and fairness. Though you may not remember my name, remember the principles I have left you. Justice is not a punishment, it is a promise. It is the light that reveals truth, the strength that protects the innocent. Seek justice not with anger, but with compassion. Hold yourselves accountable, and hold each other accountable, for only in truth can you find peace. Let my light be a guide, even if unseen, and know that as long as you strive for truth, I will be with you. In these words, U2 offered a gift to humanity, a call to embrace justice as an essential part of their existence. He asked them to carry forward his legacy not through worship, but through action. He hoped that his message would reach those who understood the importance of truth, those who valued the strength it took to protect others. For U2, this was the greatest act of love he could give, a chance for humanity to grow strong in his absence, to become guardians of justice in their own right. Though his temples might crumble, though his story might fade, U2's spirit endured. He was more than a god, he was a beacon of truth, a symbol of justice that transcended time. His love for humanity remained, silent and unyielding, watching over them as they moved forward. In his heart, he carried the hope that one day, humanity would understand his true nature, not as a god to be feared, but as a force that had always sought their growth and protection. And so the sun god continued his journey, his light and eternal presence in the sky, a quiet reminder of the path he had shown them. His legacy was not written in stone or carved into temples. It was written in the hearts of those who sought justice, those who carried his light forward. U2's spirit was woven into the very fabric of the world, a constant, unbreakable force, guiding humanity even in his silence. As he watched over the world, U2 knew that his journey was far from over. He would remain vigilant and unwavering, a presence that could never be extinguished. For though humanity might forget his name, they would never forget the light of justice he had brought into their lives. And in that light, he would always be there, a silent guardian, a beacon of truth, watching over them with a love that transcended time. As we journey through the ancient tales of gods and heroes, remember the legacy of U2, the sun god and bringer of justice. Let his story inspire you to seek truth, to uphold justice, and to protect the innocent. Even in a world that has moved on, we carry forward his light by embracing the principles he stood for: accountability, compassion, and courage. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell so you never miss an episode. Together, we can uncover the truths of our past and forge a brighter future. Thank you for joining us on this journey. May the unwavering light of justice guide you forward, illuminating every path. Until next time.